first weekly webcam wrap-up podcast. It's kind of a sister to the actual In My Footsteps podcast. In a bit of a full circle moment, the idea here is that I'm going to be going over my initial impressions 2.0 blog that I do weekly. It covers just the random wackiness from my daily life. I'm sure everyone else goes through foolishness like this, but I'm the only one that writes it down and now records a podcast of it. The original Initial Impressions blog was going to be a sister blog to my In My Footsteps travel blog. So that's where I say this is kind of full circle, because now Initial Impressions is a sister podcast. It's going to be shorter form here. So it's different. I'm going to have to learn to do a lot of editing and post because I'm not going to just pause, come back, pause, come back. I mean, maybe I will, but we'll see. So let's dive into the week that was. Monday nights, I usually have been running a local middle school track with a buddy of mine. We go back freshman year of high school. Sunset runs. They're so much fun. Partially because you get beautiful scenery. It's afternoon. In the middle of summer, it's still hot and humid, but you get exercise. But you've also got the built-in shut-off time of, oh, it's the sunset. I guess I can't run 20 more miles. Usually what happens is my buddy, he doesn't live that far from this track, less than a half mile. So he'll either walk or ride his bike to where we're going to be. And what ends up happening is when he's tired and done running, he leaves. He rides home, walks home, usually leaving me in the parking lot of this middle school that is closed down. That's the other thing, is it's a shut down school, so the track itself is overgrown. It used to have a layer of ground up tires, so it would be easy to run on, a little softer on your feet. That's all going away. There's grass growing up through it. It's not the best track, but I digress. What ended up happening this week is I've got two different stories. The first one is my buddy left to go home, and I'm lagging behind because I'm not running as much as I used to. So I walk a lot rather than run. I always want to get to 4 miles. That's kind of the cutoff point for me. So I'm finishing up. I'm going around the track a few times, and I notice a red sedan driving by where I'm parked. And at first it's like, okay, there was someone either was at the baseball fields nearby, or they're cutting through, or they're going to walk their dog, whatever. So I keep doing my walk around the track, and I notice the car go by again, slowly. Now my antenna come up because it's getting dark. I'm like, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head towards my car, and then there's a road that goes around the middle school, so it's paved, so you can do a lap. It's not far. So I decided to kind of finish up my miles more out in the open, going around the school. That's when I see this red car again, a third time. And I'm kind of walking slow, not looking too much. I'm like, this is not good when the same car has gone around 3 times. So I'm going around the school. Fourth time I see this car is when I finally notice that it's a father giving driving lessons to the son. That makes me glad I didn't flip out or freak out seeing the same car, especially 3 times before I knew that it was just a dad with his kid. The other one from the sunset running kind of ties in. Like I say, it's really fun, but the problem is you can only do it so long, depending on when you get out of work. I get out of work Monday, Tuesday, 6 o'clock. So by the time I get to this track and get into my actual running clothes, it's usually 6:20. Middle of summer, that's no big deal when the sun sets 8 o'clock. But as it starts ticking back, it gets less feasible to try to get there. So, for example, this coming week, November 23rd would be the next Monday. Anyway, at that point, I would have probably 15 minutes of sunlight to run. And I'm just like, nah. So this last week was our finale, where I had, including civil twilight, I had about an hour of time. that doesn't matter. So my buddy got done with his run. He did well. He did a fast 5K. He's a better runner than I am now, which that's fine. So I'm going around and around the track, much like I just said, trying to get to 4 miles. It's dusk. It's almost dark. I'm looking up, and that's when I started noticing that there were bats flying around me. Not around my head like they were diving me, but you can tell the difference when a bat flies over you than a bird. You can actually see their wing shape. Another interesting thing about that last sunset run was every now and then we'd get other people that would show up. There'd be families that would walk the track. It's not a big track, but you get families that would walk it, or little kids would come and ride their bikes, which is fine. My buddy and I would go run a different area. But this last week, there was a girl that showed up with her little yip yip dog, and she's walking it around the track. And my buddy and I are still running. And what would end up happening was every now and then she'd pick up the dog to hold it when we go running by. Or other times she would be holding it and running the track as well. It's just Wednesdays and Thursday mornings at my day job. I have to be there early. We open at 7. I try to get there 20 minutes early to set up. What that means is this time of year, as the sunrise gets later, much like the sunset gets earlier, there's more of a chance to see animals. Our workplace is kind of around conservation area. I've seen loads of deer and raccoons and, of course, foolish squirrels. This day I pulled in, there's that parking lot. There's a hill with a little bit of a walkway. It's not very stable, especially in winter. But you walk up and we go in the back door of the place where we work. My chiropractic, fitness, wellness clinic. That's instead of being so vague about it where they work. Mind, body, spine, chiropractic. Come in and visit us. Anyway, I noticed when I pulled into the parking lot, there was not one, not two, but what had to be at least 24 turkeys. Some parents, some juveniles, but they weren't the cute, fluffy brown turkeys, like fluffy ones. These were like the gangly teenager turkeys, so not very cute. I realized that if I walk up the hill towards the door, the turkeys are probably going to be like, he looks like he might be scared. Let's get him. And 24 on 1, not good odds unless you're fighting ants. So what I decided to do, rather than walk and risk them coming at me, I ran like a crazy person, yelling, just charging at them. They all scattered, flew into the trees, and were gobbling at me. And I said, hey, I'd rather you be mad gobbling than me get attacked by you. But it's not always sunshine and rainbows when it comes to early morning trips to work, although a lot of the time it is sunrises. I made a point to stop. On my way to work, I drive Route 6A. It's a more scenic route on Cape Cod. For those of you watching this that don't know these, I got to make sure that I give more information about where I am, what I'm doing as far as Cape Cod goes, because I got to remember not everyone watching knows where it is. But it's a more scenic route, right along the beaches. Depending on the time of day, time of year, I end up stopping at different beaches for sunrise. There's one beach, Cold Storage, in the town of Dennis, right on the Dennis-Brewster town lines. If you have ideas where that is, there's beautiful sunrise spots. You walk along sandy pathways, and the sun will rise in the east. So I walked out on the beach this one day, and I said, hey, that looks like a really nice, detailed sandcastle that looks like a sea turtle. That is until I got close up and realized that it was a dead sea turtle that had been partially opened up. Seagulls were having breakfast. Sorry for those of you that haven't eaten yet. It had been tagged already, and it had had its shell spray painted red, because otherwise you wouldn't see it and people could walk and step on it. And like I said, it was opened up. The next week, same day, same time, same beach. I walked out. I went a different way. down towards the breakwaters. And when I looked, what I saw was another sea turtle. Same species, not the same turtle because it was the same area. Again, tagged, spray painted shell. I don't know if it was something with weather getting cold, tide getting low, and them getting trapped. We've got major tidal flats in Dennis, Brewster, Orleans on Cape Cod. They're some of the biggest tidal flats in the world. So I don't know what caused these turtles to wash up on shore, but I do know, I think it was early last year in the winter, there was a great white shark that washed up on that shore. And there was a Instagram account that got a picture of it, and it blew up all over social media. So I probably should have gotten pictures of the dead turtles, but I'm like, no one wants to see those. The job I mentioned a few minutes ago, chiropractic, wellness, fitness center, mind, body, spine. We have a lot of interesting cutting edge technology. One of these is something called ERT. It's pulsed electromagnetic field. In short, it helps with healing. It helps with pain more that it would take me forever to explain. I'd have to do it in a different video. Anyway, a regular client, he uses the PEMF once a week, maybe sometimes 2 times a week. Usually he lays on it. The charge from the PEMF goes through your whole body, but if you concentrate it somewhere, it can help in that area first. It goes where your cells need recharging most, where the voltage is lowest. And it's very safe. We found out that you can even be on your phone. You could be sitting with the PEMF mat on your shoulders, on your back, using your phone. One thing we found out this week is you cannot put your phone on the PEMF mat. This guy did it not thinking. He didn't do it on purpose, but he put his phone down on it, and the phone started flipping out. It looked like if you put aluminum foil in the microwave. It was just all, it didn't spark or catch fire, but it looked crazy. And we were yelling at him, "What are you doing? What are you doing with your phone?" And he's like, he didn't know, but it's also kind of common sense. Like with a machine that's got electromagnetic waves that you wouldn't put your phone on it, just like you wouldn't put it in the microwave. He was not amused. I think his phone was all right, but we all had a good laugh. I couldn't stop laughing. It was one of the most foolish things I've seen in a while. In 2024, I've enjoyed using the payment plans through places like Affirm or Klarna, even though I can pay for what I'm getting. Like, for example, this webcam that's right here, a nice, better one, and my ring light. It's on a tripod, a stand. Anyway, to make me look as professional as I can for not having tons and tons of equipment. Anyway, I can pay for these in full, but I didn't realize the added benefit of breaking these payments up into 4 or 5, that it really helps your credit score. Because even though I could pay for it, it's like credit companies are like, wow, look, he made all his payments and no problem with Klarna or Affirm. I got my credit score dated. It went up 40 points in 5 months. The only difference was that I had these payment plans from Klarna and Affirm, or I think even PayPal does it. But that's a thing there. Buy things that you can through these payment plans and do it a few times, and your credit score goes way up. In mentioning what I just did about the payment plans through Klarna and Affirm, like I said, I bought 2 new toys to help me with my content creation journey. Like I said, one is this camera, which looks way better than my other one. The other one is a selfie stick that's also a tripod. It's behind where I am. It's got my ring light on it. So I bought these. They were way cheaper. I've been talking for a long time. If you've listened to the podcast or read the Initial Impressions blog, I've wanted a camcorder to do travel videos. I do it with my regular Canon Rebel phone. It shoots 4K video, so that's good. But as far as shooting video of yourself, I can't hold the camera. I don't know what I'm filming. So anyway, I got the webcam. I got the selfie stick. The cool thing about the selfie stick is when you extend it, the whole tripod, it's 6 feet, over 6 feet tall. So if I hold that thing up in the air and use my phone and get the fisheye, it gives you great vantage point shots. You can see it there. Anyway, I was out probably the first night I got this selfie stick tripod combo. I'm trying to extend it to get it all the way open so I can hold it up at Englewood Beach in West Yarmouth. There's a nice walkway. It's not that nice. It's more nice for nostalgia for me. But anyway, I yanked this selfie stick. When I gave it a final yank, which yanking the stick doesn't sound good. Anyway, I'm pulling at the stick. I got it fully extended, the selfie stick. But if you pull it super hard, I'm not digging a hole here, the tripod legs shoot out. And me, I'm out there and I can't figure out how to close the tripod legs. There's another couple doing like nice photos. The guy had the camera, the girl was posing next to different stuff on the beach. And they're looking at me, and I'm here with this long selfie stick, and I'm trying to smash the legs to get them to close because you can't hold the selfie stick with 3 tripod legs out. You have to balance it. I came close to losing my cool and just snapping the legs, which would have defeated the purpose of having it. It wouldn't be the tripod right now. But I took the pictures. I was able to balance it and get pictures, and it didn't fall. Finally, at the grocery store, I figured it out. It was just the way that I was pushing the stick. It was just like, oh man, those people that walked by me were probably laughing at my struggles with it. And here I was in the grocery store in the parking lot with this 6 foot long stick in my back seat. I'm trying to fool with it. Good times. So how are we doing so far? It's kind of a weird setup. I'm trying to figure out where I should be, if I should do one where I'm standing. Right now I'm sitting on a couch. I'm kind of off center to leave myself room over there to put videos, pictures. Eventually, there'll be some on the main screen. This is the first time I'm trying a video podcast, and it's weird. With the audio ones, I'll have my microphone, and because it's audio, I can pause when I'm thinking of something. Here, I can't. If I look down at my notes, it's the blog on my phone. I can't pause this. I don't really want to pause it. I can just chop out bits where I'm looking off into space. But hopefully, as we go, it'll get more professional, I guess. The camera's good, the lighting's good. It's a matter of my editing, then getting it up on YouTube or Patreon or whatever. But it opens up a whole other avenue of content for wherever I put it, probably YouTube or Patreon. So I just wanted to stop and kind of mention that. Hopefully you're enjoying it. All these stories are through, and it's weekly. Things I've already got next week's blog I'm starting on, and I've already got stuff for that. And it's just usually fun stuff, foolish people. Sometimes I'll have something more real world to talk about. Like, for example, this past week, the death of James Earl Jones, who was one of, if not the greatest voice ever in cinema. He's tied so much to my childhood. All the original Star Wars trilogy, Coming to America, which I could recite that movie backwards and forwards, but other ones like Field of Dreams, Lion King, and Sandlot. I mean, such a huge part of my childhood, and I'm sure a lot of your childhoods. Those of you that grew up in the 80s and 90s, at least he lived to be 93. So it's not like he died young, but still, when these people go, they're gone. But at least they leave so much content of their own. You imagine just being Darth Vader, the voice of Darth Vader, like James Earl Jones? He didn't have to do another thing in his life. And then he created all these other memorable characters. One good thing about this video podcast, and it ties into my blog, is I try to keep it manageable as far as subjects. It's typically 10 or 11 things. I try to do top 10, but then this week there was an 11 because I thought of something funny right before I posted the blog. So I'll end with this one that's way more funny. My last name is Swedish, Setterlund, and it's hard to spell. I've come to realize that. I don't get that upset because it's usually Sutherland, Sutherland. My last name is Setterlund. It's even worse when my family came over from Sweden in the late 1880s. It was Zetterlund with a Z. That was wicked Swedish. I actually had a time that I was doing a book event at Mitchell's Bookshop on Nantucket, and it was great. It was for a Nantucket travel guide. I had a table outside, books. I was on the cobblestone Main Street. I mean, it was one of my favorite events for scenery. And a woman walks up to me out of nowhere and she just starts speaking Swedish to me. And after a few sentences, I think she realized the confused look on my face. And so she pointed at my book and she said, Setterlund. I said, yeah, you're Swedish. Yeah, I don't speak it though. She didn't buy a book. I mean, I don't even know if I could have faked it enough to get her to part with her money. But yeah, I don't speak Swedish, even though it's my DNA. The latest example of this is when I talk about being a 12th generation Cape Codder, my family is the Doan family that helped to settle the town of Eastham on Cape Cod. Deacon John Doan is my ninth great grandfather. Anyway, the Doan family is my connection. I'm a member of a Facebook group that's the Doan Family Association, and they're doing an event next month in Eastham at Doan Rock, the Doan Homestead. So I got an invite. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Until I saw they double misspelled my name wrong. So I could get it if you misspelled it with one of the letters wrong. But when it's like super spelled wrong, it's like I'm the member of the group on Facebook. You couldn't mouse over me and find my name. You couldn't Google search me. I mean, not to pat myself on the back for things that aren't really relevant, but I've got a big social footprint. Tons of books, tons of podcasts, website. You couldn't find the last name Setterlund and spell it right. So I'm not going to this event. It's not only because of that. I actually have plans. It's Columbus Day weekend. So my plan is to go and do an overnight travel road trip. But that's basically the weekly wrap up right there. Trying to keep it manageable. The main podcast is usually just under an hour. These I do not want to be that long because mainly all the content for those of you that watch, listen, read, any of that, it's all me. I don't have a team editing these, pitching me ideas, doing the editing, nothing. It's just me. So it's kind of like I got to mitigate how much I do. I'd love to do more content, but for every video podcast I do, audio podcast, bonus podcast, all the other videos, I have to remember the one that edits it is me because otherwise it's not going to get up there. And the more content you have, the more chances for people to find you. That's what I'm noticing is people are subscribing on YouTube, finding me with podcasts, and they'll find something. I don't know what the topic is, but it draws them in like a spider web. And suddenly I'll get a run on videos being watched or a run on podcast downloads. We're getting close. I want to get to the point where I can monetize my content. You need a certain amount of followers on YouTube, certain amount of hours watched, certain amount of downloads on the podcast, all that stuff, the minutia that it doesn't really interest you unless you're trying to be a content creator. You need a certain level to then start to monetize. And I'm right there. So more content, more chances for more eyes on it. And as we go, it'll be a little more polished. I'm going to try to do these weekly. It might not be possible depending on, I work a full-time day job. I do the regular podcast. I do the blog, edit them. I do usually weekly videos on YouTube. And I'm not complaining about it. I love doing it. I wouldn't add more to my plate if I didn't want to do it. But there may be weeks that I don't do this weekly wrap up, but I'm going to do my best I can. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Reach out on social media. Let me know how it was. If you want to support me, support my content, you can subscribe on Patreon, the In My Footsteps podcast. This video, I'll put links in the description for all that. If you're finding me for the first time through this video, go and look at all of my other content. I'm sorry, binge it. Get me up in the views and the likes, hundreds and thousands of stuff. But until next time, this has been the weekly wrap up. I've been Christopher Setterland, but some of you probably know that. And I'll see you next week for more randomness from the reality that is my life.